I've rebuilt transmissions that had more warmth than the look my daughter gave me that Sunday morning. The church was one of those sprawling suburban monuments to middle-class aspiration, all glass and blonde wood and carefully maintained landscaping that screamed, "We're doing better than you think." I'd driven 40 minutes to get there, wearing the nicest clothes I owned, which admittedly wasn't saying much. Clean jeans, a pressed button-down, boots I'd actually polished the night before. The gift bag in my hand had cost me 2 days' profit from the shop, but it was my grandson's baptism. You don't show up empty-handed to something like that. I should have known something was wrong when I saw the parking lot. There had to be 200 cars packed in there, maybe more, with overflow spilling onto the street. My daughter hadn't mentioned it would be this big. Then again, my daughter hadn't mentioned much of anything to me in the last 6 months. Our conversations had become these stilted, awkward exchanges where she'd give me one-word answers and change the subject whenever I asked about her life. I'd chalked it up to new mother exhaustion, to the demands of her husband's family, to the natural drift that happens when your kid builds their own life. I was an idiot. The moment I walked toward the entrance, I saw her. She was standing just inside the doorway, talking to some woman in a hat that probably cost more than my truck payment. My daughter looked beautiful. She always did, in a cream-colored dress that made her look older somehow, more polished, like she'd been dipped in the same expensive veneer as the church itself. Her hair was styled in a way I didn't recognize, pulled back in some complicated arrangement that probably had a French name. She saw me coming. I watched her face change, watched the smile drop away and get replaced by something that looked almost like panic. She excused herself from Hat Lady and moved to intercept me, her heels clicking on the polished floor. "Dad." She didn't say it warmly. She said it like a warning. "Hey, sweetheart." I held up the gift bag, trying for cheerful. "Didn't want to miss this. He's my first grandkid, after all." She glanced over her shoulder, then back at me. Her jaw was tight. I knew that look. I'd seen it 1,000 times when she was a teenager, right before she told me something I wasn't going to like. "Dad, there's no place for you." I blinked. "What?" "There's no place for you," she repeated, quieter this time, like that would somehow make it better. "Please don't make this harder." The words took a second to land. When they did, it felt like someone had shoved me off a cliff and I was still waiting to hit bottom. "I drove 40 minutes to get here." My voice came out flat. "I bought a gift. It's your son's baptism." "I know, but..." She looked over her shoulder again, and I followed her gaze. Her husband was standing near the sanctuary doors, watching us. He looked like he always did, slicked back hair, expensive suit, the kind of smile that never quite reached his eyes. Brad. No, Brett. No, it was definitely Brad, though I'd mentally called him Dick for the better part of 2 years. Brad caught my eye and started walking over, and I saw exactly how this was going to go. My daughter put a hand on my arm, and I could feel her fingers trembling. "Please, Dad. Just... please." Around us, people were starting to stare. I could feel their eyes like physical weight, could see them whispering to each other behind their programs and their designer handbags. A church usher had materialized near the wall, watching us with the kind of alert tension you see in bouncers at dive bars. Brad arrived at my daughter's shoulder, and his hand went immediately to the small of her back in a gesture that was probably supposed to look protective, but came off as proprietary. "Sir?" He didn't say my name. He'd never called me by name, not once in the entire time he'd been married to my daughter. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," I said. "My grandson's getting baptized today. I'm here to see it." "I'm afraid that won't be possible." He pitched his voice low and reasonable, the way you'd talk to a confused old man or a drunk who'd wandered into the wrong venue. "This is a private family event." "I'm family." "The guest list was finalized weeks ago." He smiled, and I wanted to knock every one of his perfect teeth down his throat. Security has been made aware of the situation. That's when I noticed the usher had moved closer, along with another guy in a cheap suit who had "Volunteer Security" written all over him. Behind them, through the sanctuary doors, I could see the pews packed with people. 200, maybe more, all dressed in their Sunday best, all here to celebrate my grandson. And there was no place for me. My daughter wouldn't meet my eyes. She was staring at the floor, at the wall, at anywhere but my face. Her hand was still on my arm, but it felt lifeless now, like she'd already let go even though her fingers were still touching me. I looked at Brad, at Dick, and I saw it in his expression. The smugness, the satisfaction, the sheer pleasure he was taking in this moment. This wasn't about logistics or guest lists or security concerns. This was about power. This was about him drawing a line and daring me to cross it, about putting me in my place in front of all his church friends and country club connections. Someone behind me snickered. I didn't turn to see who it was, but I heard the whispered comment that followed. Guess they didn't invite the discount version. The laughter that rippled through the crowd after that was quiet, polite, the kind of laughter that people think is subtle, but cuts just as deep as anything shouted from a rooftop. I could feel the anger rising in my chest, hot and sharp and dangerous. I could have made a scene. I could have pushed past them, forced my way into that sanctuary, made them drag me out in front of all their friends. I could have ruined the whole goddamn day. But I didn't. Instead, I looked at my daughter and smiled. Not a warm smile, not a forgiving one. The kind of smile that said I was filing this moment away in a place where it would never, ever be forgotten. All right then, sweetheart. I set the gift bag down on the floor at her feet, carefully, deliberately. Then I turned to leave. Brad made his mistake then. He reached out and grabbed my shoulder, fingers digging in hard enough to hurt, trying to steer me toward the exit like I was a piece of furniture being relocated. "Let me help you find the door," he said. I moved faster than he expected. My hand came up and caught his wrist, and I didn't squeeze, didn't hurt him, didn't twist or pull or do any of the 100 things my body wanted to do in that moment. "Don't touch me again," I said quietly. For just a second, I saw fear flash across his face, real fear, the kind that comes when someone realizes they've made a serious miscalculation about who they're dealing with. Then I let go, and I walked out. The autumn air hit me like a slap when I got outside, cold and bright and so goddamn clear I could see every detail of the parking lot, every perfectly maintained shrub, every luxury SUV gleaming in the morning sun. My hands were shaking. I shoved them in my pockets and kept walking, heading for my truck at the far end of the lot. I didn't look back. I got in the truck, closed the door, and sat there for a long moment with my hands on the steering wheel. The church was still there behind me, all glass and light and warmth. Inside, 200 people were celebrating my grandson's baptism. My daughter was standing beside her husband, probably relieved that I'd left without making more of a scene. The baby I'd never gotten to hold was being paraded in front of strangers while I sat in a parking lot trying to remember how to breathe. They really think I'm done, I thought. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found a name I hadn't called in almost 3 years. Wyatt Morrison. The last time I'd seen him had been at his brother's funeral, where we'd gotten drunk and traded stories about the old days and promised to stay in touch the way you always do at funerals, knowing you probably won't. But Wyatt owed me. He owed me big, for something that had happened a long time ago on a dark stretch of highway when his brother had been bleeding out in the back of my truck, and I'd driven 90 miles an hour to the nearest hospital with my hazards on and one hand holding pressure on the wound. I hit call. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Jake? Jesus, man, is that really you?" "Yeah, it's me." My voice sounded steady, which was a minor miracle given how hard my heart was pounding. "You still running that stunt show? The motorcycle thing?" Yeah, we're on tour right now. Why? Remember that favor you owe me? There was a pause on the other end. When Wyatt spoke again, his voice had changed, gotten serious. I remember. It's time. Another pause. What do you need? I looked at the church in my rearview mirror, at all that glass and light and carefully constructed perfection. I need a stage, I said, and I need it to be big. Before we continue, hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We'd love to get to know our audience better. The garage was quiet when I got back, which suited me fine. I'd closed the shop for the day anyway, planning to spend it at the baptism, at the reception afterward, holding my grandson for the first time and pretending I didn't notice how uncomfortable my son-in-law got whenever I was around. So much for that plan. I unlocked the side door and stepped into the familiar smell of motor oil and metal and the particular kind of dust that accumulates in garages no matter how often you sweep. The space wasn't much. 3 bays, a cramped office that doubled as a break room, a bathroom that had seen better days, but it was mine. I'd bought it 15 years ago with money I'd saved working double shifts at the dealership, back when my daughter was still in middle school, and the idea of owning my own business felt like something that happened to other people. Now, it was the only thing in my life that made sense. I grabbed a beer from the mini fridge in the office and sat down at the desk, which was really just a folding table covered in invoices and parts catalogs and coffee rings. The beer was cheap and tasted like it, but I drank it anyway, staring at the wall calendar that was 3 months out of date. My phone rang. I looked at the screen. It was my daughter. I watched it ring, watched her name flash on the display, and I didn't answer. After 6 rings, it went to voicemail. 10 seconds later, it started ringing again. I turned it face down on the desk and took another drink. The sun was setting by the time Wyatt showed up. I heard his bike before I saw him, a deep, throaty rumble that echoed off the buildings and announced his arrival from 3 blocks away. He pulled into the lot, riding a custom Harley that probably cost more than my truck and my mortgage combined. All chrome and black paint and the kind of meticulous detailing that made it clear this wasn't just transportation. It was a statement. Same sharp eyes, same permanent sunburn, same scar along his jawline from a crash he'd walked away from when he was 19 and thought he was invincible. Jake. He clasped my hand, pulled me into a brief hug. You look like shit. Feel like it too. That bad, huh? Worse. We went inside and I got him a beer, and for a while we just sat there drinking in companionable silence. That was one thing I'd always appreciated about Wyatt. He knew when not to talk, when to just let the moment breathe. Finally, he said, "So, tell me." I told him. All of it. The baptism, the rejection, the 200 witnesses to my humiliation. The way my daughter had looked through me like I was a stranger. The way her husband had put his hand on me like I was trash to be taken out. The snickering, the whispered comments, the sheer casual cruelty of it all. Your own daughter. Yeah. He drained his beer and crushed the can in his hand. So what do you want to do about it? I want them to understand what they did, I said. I want them to feel it the way I felt it. Public humiliation, in front of everyone who matters to them. I want to take everything they think makes them better than me and show the world it's built on lies. You want revenge. I want justice. Wyatt grinned. Same thing, really. He pulled out his phone and started scrolling through something, then turned the screen toward me. It was a promotional poster for his show. Thunder Road, it was called, featuring a staged photo of motorcycles mid-flight and riders doing tricks that looked physically impossible. At the bottom, in smaller text, were tour dates and locations. We're doing a show next Saturday, he said, about 30 miles from here. Big venue, outdoor arena, usually pulls in 5,000 or 6,000 people. It's the finale of our fall tour, so we're going all out. Pyrotechnics, stunt coordination, the whole 9 yards. How does that help me? Because you're going to be there, Wyatt said. Not in the crowd, on the stage. I stared at him. What? Guest of honor. We'll announce it all week, plaster your name on the promotional material, make it a whole thing. Local hero, small business owner, proud grandfather. We can spin it however you want. The point is, everyone in your daughter's social circle is going to know you're going to be there, center stage, being celebrated while they sit in the audience. And if they don't come? Then they look like assholes for skipping it. Wyatt leaned back in his chair. But they'll come. People like that always do. They can't stand the idea of missing something, of being left out of the conversation. And once they're there, once they're in those seats, he smiled. That's when you control the narrative. I thought about it. About Brad and my daughter sitting in an arena, surrounded by thousands of people, forced to watch me being honored and celebrated while they squirmed in their seats. About the church crowd and the country club set and all the people who'd witnessed my humiliation having to witness my triumph instead. What do I have to do? I asked. Leave that to me. Wyatt stood up, stretched. I'll handle the logistics, the promotion, all of it. You just need to show up and be ready to tell your story. Can you do that? I can do that. Good. He headed for the door, then paused. Jake, whatever happened in that church, whatever your daughter said to you, I'm sorry, man. No one deserves that. Thanks. After he left, I sat in the quiet garage for a while longer, thinking. My phone was still face down on the desk. I picked it up and saw 17 missed calls from my daughter, along with a string of text messages I didn't bother reading. I silenced it and went back to work. The next morning started early. I was under the hood of a Dodge Ram when my phone started ringing again. I ignored it. It rang 4 more times before lunch, then 3 times in the afternoon. Around 4 o'clock, someone knocked on the bay door. It was my daughter. She looked terrible, eyes red and puffy, makeup smudged, still wearing the cream-colored dress from yesterday. Her hair was falling out of its complicated arrangement, and there were mascara tracks on her cheeks. Dad, please, she said. We need to talk. I'm working. Dad, you made it pretty clear yesterday that there's no place for me in your life. I went back to the engine, checking the oil pressure. So I'm not sure what we have to talk about. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? She didn't answer. I glanced over and saw her crying silently, tears streaming down her face without sound. Part of me wanted to go to her, to hug her and tell her it was okay, to be the father I'd always tried to be. But the bigger part of me, the part that was still hearing those whispered laughs and seeing her look through me like I was nothing, stayed right where it was. Brad said you tried to cause a scene, she said finally. He said you grabbed him. I held his wrist. There's a difference. He's talking about filing a restraining order. I laughed. I couldn't help it. A restraining order, that's rich. This isn't funny, Dad. No, it's not. I straightened up, wiped my hands on a rag. You want to know what's not funny? Driving 40 minutes to see my grandson baptized and getting turned away at the door like I'm some kind of criminal. Having 200 people stare at me while your husband treats me like trash. That's not funny at all. I didn't know he was going to do that. Bullshit. I didn't. Her voice broke. I swear, Dad, I didn't know. He told me there was a seating issue, that we couldn't accommodate everyone, that we'd have to make some hard choices. I thought you'd understand. Understand what? That I'm expendable? That your new family matters more than the man who raised you? That's not fair. None of this is fair, sweetheart. That's the whole goddamn point. We stared at each other across the garage bay. She looked so small standing there in her expensive dress and her ruined makeup, so fragile and lost. But I couldn't let myself care about that. Not right now. Not when I was still raw from yesterday, still bleeding from wounds I didn't know how to bandage. His parents are telling everyone you're unstable, she said quietly. They're saying you have anger issues, that you've always been jealous of Brad's success, That you can't handle the fact that I've moved on with my life. And what are you telling everyone? She looked away. That's what I thought. I turned back to the truck. You should go. I have work to do. Dad? Go home, sweetheart. Go back to your husband and your nice house and your church friends. I'm sure they're all very worried about you. She stood there for another minute, maybe hoping I'd change my mind, maybe trying to figure out what to say that would fix this. But there was nothing to say. She'd made her choice yesterday, made it in front of 200 witnesses, and now she was stuck with it. Finally, she left. I watched her car pull out of the lot through the grimy window, watched her drive away back to her life, and I felt something settle in my chest. Not forgiveness, not acceptance, just cold, crystalline certainty about what I was going to do next. I pulled out my phone and called Wyatt. How's the promotion coming? I asked. Fast. I've got posters going up tomorrow, social media campaign launching tonight. By Wednesday, everyone in a 50-mile radius is going to know about Thunder Road's special guest. Good. You sure about this, Jake? Once we start, there's no backing out. I'm sure. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went through the boxes in my closet, the ones I'd shoved up there after the divorce and tried to forget about. Photos, mostly. Birthday parties and school plays and camping trips. Pictures of my daughter as a little girl, gap-toothed and grinning, sitting on my shoulders or holding up a fish she'd caught, or blowing out candles on a homemade cake. There was one photo I spent a long time looking at. She was maybe 7 or 8, wearing a princess costume I'd bought at a thrift store for Halloween. The tiara was crooked and the dress was too big, but she was beaming at the camera like she was the happiest kid in the world. I was kneeling beside her, face painted to look like a monster, making an exaggerated, scary face while she laughed. I remembered that night. Remembered walking her door to door through the neighborhood, carrying her candy bag when it got too heavy, staying out long past bedtime because she was having so much fun. Remembered her falling asleep in the truck on the way home, still clutching that bag of candy, and carrying her inside without waking her up. When had it all gone wrong? When had I become the man she was ashamed to be seen with? The father who didn't fit into her carefully curated life? I didn't have an answer. Maybe there wasn't one. I put the photo back in the box and closed the lid. Thursday morning, Elizabeth called with news. They're withdrawing the defamation suit. I almost dropped the phone. What? They're withdrawing it. No explanation, no negotiation, just a brief filing saying they're voluntarily dismissing without prejudice. My guess is their lawyers actually read the case file and realized they didn't have a leg to stand on. That's good, right? It's very good. It means they're scared. It means they know they overplayed their hand and now they're trying to retreat before they make things worse. What about the restraining order? Still pending, but I don't think it'll go anywhere. The hearing's set for next Monday. I'll need you there to testify, but I'm confident the judge will see through their bullshit. After we hung up, I allowed myself a moment of cautious optimism. Maybe this was actually working. Maybe telling the truth and refusing to back down was enough to beat people who thought money made them invincible. Then my phone rang again. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Cooper? The voice was young, uncertain. This is Melissa. I'm Brad's sister. I'd met her once, briefly, at the wedding. She'd seemed nice enough, quieter than the rest of the family, less concerned with appearances. What can I do for you? I asked carefully. I wanted to warn you. My parents are planning something. I don't know exactly what, but I overheard them talking last night about solving the problem permanently. They mentioned hiring someone to dig into your past, to find anything they could use against you. Why are you telling me this? Because what they did to you was wrong. What they've done to your daughter is wrong. I've watched them manipulate and control people my whole life, and I'm tired of pretending I don't see it. Does Brad know you're calling? God, no. He'd lose his mind. He's completely bought into my parents' version of reality. He thinks you're the villain, that you attacked him unprovoked, that you're trying to destroy our family for no reason. And you don't think that? I saw the video from your shop, the real one, not the edited version my parents are showing everyone. Brad grabbed you first. He was the aggressor, and at Thunder Road he charged the stage. He attacked you in front of thousands of witnesses, yet somehow my parents have convinced him that he's the victim in all this. That's what they do, isn't it? Rewrite reality until everyone believes their version. Yes. Her voice broke. I'm so sorry for what my family has done to you. And I'm sorry for what they've done to your daughter. She's not a bad person, Mr. Cooper. She's just trapped, and she doesn't know how to get out. I know. Thank you for calling. After she hung up, I sat for a long time thinking about what she'd said. A private investigator. They were going to try to dig up dirt on me, to find some mistake from my past they could weaponize. It was a smart move. If they couldn't beat me in court, they'd try to beat me in the court of public opinion. The problem was, I didn't have any skeletons in my closet. No criminal record, no secret addictions, no financial malfeasance. Just a regular life lived by a regular guy who worked hard and paid his taxes and tried to do right by his daughter. They weren't going to find anything because there was nothing to find. Friday. Everything changed. I was at the shop when my daughter showed up, this time with a black eye and a split lip. Jesus Christ. I was out from under the car I'd been working on in seconds, grabbing her shoulders gently. What happened? Brad. She was shaking. We got in a fight about me calling you. He saw it on the phone bill, all the calls. He accused me of betraying the family, of choosing you over him. When I tried to leave the room, he grabbed my arm and I pulled away and She touched her lip gingerly. He hit me. Where's the baby? With Brad's mother. She took him this morning, said I needed some time to calm down and think about my choices. She took your son. She has a key to the house. She just walked in and took him while I was in the shower. When I came out, she was gone. She left a note saying she's keeping him until I come to my senses. That was kidnapping. That was literally kidnapping. I pulled out my phone and called Elizabeth. I need you to file an emergency custody motion. Brad hit my daughter, and his mother took the baby without permission. On it. Is your daughter injured? Does she need medical attention? I looked at my daughter, who nodded. Yes. Take her to the ER. Get everything documented. Photos, medical reports, police report if possible. I'll have the emergency motion filed by end of business today. We spent the afternoon at the hospital. A doctor examined my daughter's injuries, took photographs, asked questions in a gentle voice that barely concealed her anger. A nurse helped her fill out a police report. A social worker gave her pamphlets about domestic violence resources and safe houses. Through it all, my daughter was calm. Too calm. Like she'd gone somewhere deep inside herself where Brad couldn't reach her. I should have left sooner, she said, as we drove back to my house. She was staying with me now. No discussion. I knew something was wrong. I could feel it. But I kept telling myself it would get better, that I was overreacting, that I just needed to try harder. That's not your fault. Isn't it? You tried to warn me. You saw what Brad was from the beginning, and I chose him anyway. You fell in love, that's not a crime. It feels like one. We pulled into my driveway and sat there for a moment in the growing darkness. Inside the house, the lights were off. I'd have to make up the spare bedroom for her, find clean sheets, maybe order some takeout since I hadn't been grocery shopping in a week. Dad? My daughter's voice was small. What if I can't get him back? What if the judge sides with Brad's family? They have money and lawyers and I'm just me. You're not just anything. You're his mother. And no judge in the world is going to let a woman who kidnapped a child keep custody just because she's rich. You don't know that. I do. Trust me. We went inside, and I got her settled in the spare room. She sat on the bed, still wearing the same clothes she'd been in when she showed up at the shop, looking lost and broken and so young it hurt my heart. Get some rest, I said. Elizabeth will call tomorrow with an update. Dad, thank you for not saying I told you so, for not making this harder than it already is. You're my daughter. I'm always going to be on your side. After she went to bed, I sat in the kitchen with a beer and my phone, scrolling through the day's messages. More hate mail, more legal threats, more people I'd never met telling me what a terrible person I was. But buried in the noise was a message from Wyatt. Heard about your daughter. I'm sorry, man. Let me know if you need anything. I texted back. I need Brad's family to suffer. Working on it. I didn't know what that meant, and I didn't ask. Wyatt had his own connections, his own ways of handling problems. If he said he was working on it, I believed him. Saturday morning, Elizabeth called with an update. Emergency hearing is Monday morning at 9. Judge Hamilton is presiding. She's good, fair, doesn't tolerate bullshit. Brad's lawyers are already trying to delay, but I told them we'd be filing criminal kidnapping charges against his mother if they didn't produce the child immediately. And the baby will be at the hearing. They caved. Relief flooded through me. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is just round one. Brad's going to fight for custody, and his family has the resources to make it ugly. Your daughter needs to be prepared for that. She will be. The weekend crawled by. My daughter stayed in bed most of Saturday, emerging only to eat and use the bathroom. I didn't push her to talk, didn't try to force her to process what had happened. She'd been through a trauma, and she needed time. Sunday morning, she came into the kitchen where I was making coffee. I want to go with you tomorrow, she said. To the hearing. You don't have to. Elizabeth can handle it. I know, but I want Brad to see me. I want him to know I'm not scared anymore, that I'm done letting him control me. Okay, then we'll go together. She smiled for the first time since Friday. It was a small smile, fragile and uncertain, but it was there. We're going to win this, aren't we? She asked. Yes, sweetheart, we're going to win. Monday morning was cold and clear. We arrived at the courthouse an hour early, Elizabeth meeting us in the parking lot with 2 thick folders of documentation and a grim expression. They're bringing everyone, she said. Brad, his parents, his sister, their lawyer team. They want to make this as intimidating as possible. Will it work? My daughter asked. Not a chance. Judge Hamilton doesn't care how many lawyers you bring or how expensive your suit is. She cares about facts and law and what's best for the child, and the facts are on our side. We went through security and took the elevator to the 3rd floor. The hallway outside the courtroom was already crowded, Brad and his family on one side, us on the other, a dozen feet of tension-filled space between. Brad's mother saw us and said something to her husband, who put a restraining hand on Brad's arm when he started forward. My daughter stood a little straighter, chin up, meeting their glares with steady silence. Don't engage, Elizabeth whispered. Let them look. Let them see you're not broken. At 9 sharp, the bailiff called us in. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, wood-paneled and formal, with the judge's bench elevated above everyone else. Judge Hamilton was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and no makeup, wearing her robes like armor. Let's get started, she said without preamble. I've read the emergency motion. Ms. Kwan, your client is alleging that the minor child was removed from the mother's custody without consent by the paternal grandmother. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. And Mr. Holloway's position is? Brad's lead attorney stood. His name was Richard something, and he had the kind of polished arrogance that came from winning too many cases. Your Honor, Mrs. Holloway was concerned about the child's welfare given the mother's erratic behavior and association with a violent individual. She removed the child to a safe location temporarily while the situation could be assessed. By violent individual, you mean the maternal grandfather? Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Cooper has a documented history of aggression, including 2 physical altercations with my client in recent weeks. I've seen the videos of both incidents, Judge Hamilton said dryly. In both cases, your client initiated physical contact with Mr. Cooper, who responded with reasonable defensive force. Do you have any evidence of Mr. Cooper being violent toward the child or the mother? Richard hesitated. Not directly, Your Honor, but… Then let's move on. Mrs. Holloway, you're the paternal grandmother? Brad's mother stood, all expensive jewelry and wounded dignity. Yes, Your Honor. Did you have permission from the mother to take the child from the home last Friday? I have a key, Your Honor. I've always been welcome in their home. That's not what I asked. Did you have permission? A pause. No, Your Honor. But I was concerned. About what, specifically? About my daughter-in-law's judgment, about the influences she was allowing into her life and around my grandson. And you felt qualified to make that determination on your own. I've known her for 3 years, Your Honor. I've watched her make increasingly poor decisions, culminating in her association with a man who publicly humiliated our family and assaulted my son. Your Honor, Elizabeth interrupted. May I present evidence? Judge Hamilton nodded. Elizabeth pulled out her phone and connected it to the courtroom's display system. A video appeared on the screen, the one from Thunder Road, showing Brad charging the stage, showing me defending myself, showing him on the ground. This is your son assaulting Mr. Cooper in front of 9,000 witnesses, Elizabeth said, not the other way around. And this, another video, the shop footage, shows your son initiating a physical confrontation on Mr. Cooper's property. In both cases, Mr. Cooper used minimal force to defend himself, yet you've characterized him as the aggressor. Why? Because he provoked my son, Brad's mother said. He stood on that stage and humiliated our entire family, told lies about us to thousands of people. What lies specifically? She faltered. He said we paid to keep him out of the baptism, that we manipulated his daughter, that we… Did you pay for the baptism venue? Yes, as a gift to our son and daughter-in-law. Did you specifically request that Mr. Cooper not be invited? We suggested that given the size of the venue, some difficult choices would need to be made about the guest list. And one of those difficult choices was excluding the maternal grandfather while inviting 200 other guests. Brad's mother's face was red now. We didn't think he'd be comfortable there. Because? Because he doesn't fit in with our social circle. The courtroom went silent. Even Richard looked uncomfortable. Judge Hamilton leaned forward. Mrs. Holloway, did you just admit to excluding the maternal grandfather from his grandson's baptism because he wasn't wealthy enough for your standards? That's not… I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? We thought everyone would be more comfortable if the event was limited to people who shared similar values and backgrounds. Similar economic backgrounds. Yes, Thank you, Mrs. Holloway. You can sit down. Judge Hamilton turned to my daughter. Mrs. Holloway, the younger one, I need to hear from you. Do you feel safe in your husband's home? My daughter stood. She was shaking, but her voice was steady. No, Your Honor. Why not? Because last Friday, my husband hit me when I told him I'd been calling my father. He gave me a black eye and split my lip. I have medical documentation and photographs if you'd like to see them. I would. Elizabeth handed over a folder. Judge Hamilton flipped through it, her expression darkening with each page. Mr. Holloway, did you strike your wife? Brad stood up fast enough that his chair scraped loudly against the floor. She's lying. I never touched her. You're under oath. I don't care. She's lying to get back at me, to turn everyone against me like her father did. She fell, Your Honor. She slipped in the bathroom and hit her face on the counter. I tried to help her and she pushed me away. That's not true, my daughter said. Your Honor, he hit me, and I have a witness. His sister called my father to warn him that the family was planning something. She knows what they're capable of. Your Honor, Richard interjected, this is hearsay? I'm not a jury, Counselor. I'll determine what weight to give the evidence. Judge Hamilton looked at the bailiff. Is Melissa Holloway present? Brad's sister stood from the back of the courtroom. She looked terrified, but she walked forward when beckoned. "Ms. Holloway, did you call Mr. Cooper last week?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Why?" "Because my parents were planning to hire a private investigator to dig up dirt on him. Because I knew Brad had gotten physical with his wife. Because I'm tired of watching my family destroy people and pretend they're the victims." Brad's father was on his feet now. "You ungrateful—" "Mr. Holloway, sit down." Judge Hamilton's voice could have cut glass. "Everyone sit down. Now." The room fell silent. Judge Hamilton spent a long moment reading through documents, her expression unreadable. Finally, she looked up. "Here's what's going to happen. Custody of the minor child is immediately returned to the mother. Mr. Brad Holloway, you are ordered to stay away from your wife and child pending a full custody hearing, which will be scheduled within 30 days. Mrs. Holloway Sr., if you remove that child from his mother's custody again, I will have you arrested for kidnapping. Are we clear?" "Your Honor," Richard said desperately, "my client has rights." "Your client has the right to not assault his wife. That's it. That's the only right I care about right now." She banged her gavel. "We're adjourned. The child will be transferred to the mother immediately." Brad lunged forward, trying to reach my daughter, shouting something about her being a traitor and a liar. Security grabbed him, held him back while he struggled. His parents were yelling too, chaos erupting in the courtroom. Elizabeth grabbed my daughter's arm and pulled her toward a side door. "Let's go, now." We made it to the hallway as Brad broke free from security and came after us. He was screaming now, incoherent with rage, his face purple. 2 courthouse security guards tackled him to the ground, one of them yelling into his radio for backup. "Keep walking," Elizabeth said. "Don't look back." We took the elevator down, exited through a side entrance, got to my truck. Only when we were safely inside with the doors locked did my daughter start crying, huge, racking sobs that shook her entire body. "It's over," I said, pulling her into a hug. "It's over, sweetheart. You did it." "No, he's not. He's going to jail. Did you see how many laws he just broke in front of a judge? He's done." Elizabeth's phone rang. She answered, listened for a moment, then smiled. "Judge Hamilton just issued a temporary restraining order against Brad. He can't come within 500 feet of your daughter or the child, and the DA's office is filing assault charges based on the medical evidence. He's being arrested as we speak." My daughter looked up, eyes wide. "Really?" "Really. He's going to spend tonight in jail, probably longer depending on bail. And by the time he gets out, we'll have the full custody hearing and you'll have primary custody secured." "What about his parents?" "They'll keep fighting, but they don't have a legal leg to stand on. Judge Hamilton saw through them completely. They're just angry rich people now, and that's not enough to win in court." We drove to Brad's house with a police escort to retrieve the baby and some of my daughter's belongings. Brad's mother was there, holding my grandson, refusing to hand him over until the officer threatened her with arrest. She finally surrendered the baby with a venomous look at my daughter. "You'll regret this," she said. "You'll regret destroying this family." "I didn't destroy anything," my daughter said quietly. "Your son did that all by himself." Back at my house, my daughter held her son for the first time in 3 days, crying and laughing and covering his face with kisses. The baby, oblivious to the drama, just gurgled and grabbed at her hair. "Thank you, Dad," she said, "for everything. For not giving up on me. For fighting for us." "That's what fathers do," I said. That night, I got a text from Wyatt. Just a link, no explanation. I clicked it. It was a news article. "Local executive arrested after courtroom outburst." There was Brad's mugshot, his face still red with rage, his expensive suit rumpled. The article detailed the assault charges, the restraining order, the chaos in the courtroom. But that wasn't what made me smile. At the bottom of the article was another link. "Family business under investigation for labor violations." Apparently, an anonymous tip had led the Department of Labor to start investigating Brad's father's flooring distribution company. Allegations of wage theft, unsafe working conditions, retaliation against whistleblowers. I called Wyatt. "You didn't," I said. "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just a guy who knows people who know people. Sometimes information finds its way to the right authorities." "Wyatt, they hurt your family, Jake. They tried to destroy you. Seems only fair that someone returned the favor." After we hung up, I sat on the porch with a beer, watching the sun set. Inside, my daughter was putting the baby down for the night, singing softly. The house felt full in a way it hadn't in years. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The custody battle wasn't over. Brad's family would regroup, would find new ways to attack. There would be more court dates, more lawyers, more fights. But tonight, we'd won. Tonight, my daughter and grandson were safe under my roof. Tonight, the truth had beaten the lies. And that was enough.